Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to a special episode of the F Reality Podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. Of course, we're not live streaming live this week because we're here from the show floor at Oculus Connect 6 together in real life, which is awesome to be around you guys. So today, in this episode, this special episode of the show, we're just going to be talking about all the stuff we experienced at Oculus Connect 6, some of our highlights, some of our like takeaways from the keynote, which was the big event yesterday. And of course, I'll introduce you guys as well, because maybe I should do that if you don't know who we are. So this fellow to my left who's holding the microphone is, of course, the legend that is Nathie. Then we've got ZimTalk5, and then Rowdy, and then finally myself, the host of the show, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis. So I guess, because we start the show normally talking about our highlight of the week, maybe we should start this episode of the podcast with our kind of highlight of the show so far. So a game you played or an experience that you tried that you thought sort of stood out from the rest. So I think I'll pass it over to you, Nathie, first to see what you have to say about this. So yeah, what did you play, and what do you think would be your highlight of the show so far?
So honestly, I haven't really played that much because the lines are quite long. I just need to sometimes wait for 2-3 hours to get somewhere. But the most important thing that I wanted to try after the keynote was, of course, the hand tracking. I was like, I can't miss that one out. So I did. It was like an insurance demo. You were playing as a farmer's insurance. I have no idea what that means, but it was awesome. I had to open some cabinets. I had to
go and add some context, because some people might not know what hand tracking we're talking about here.
Oh, yeah.
So Oculus Quest, they've just announced that essentially it will give in November, I believe, full finger hand tracking on the Quest with no controllers. And you got a chance to try out this industrial farmers demo. Like, what did you do in that demo?
So there was water damage in my kitchen, and I had to find all these places where there was water laying around. Although you would think if you talk about hand tracking, it's like you grab things, but in the end it was just me pointing at things and then it just opened. So there was a cabinet that I could open. I just had to point to open it. So I wasn't grabbing things. I did try, of course, because that's I played so much with the Leap Motion. That was my natural reaction. But I'm sure we're going to talk more about that later, how good it is and things like that. So
I think that you mentioned, Zim, they've mentioned this free update for Quest that's shipping in November, adding finger tracking to Quest. It's kind of surprising that they didn't mention about it being added to Rift S either, right? And I wonder if it's because of the locations of the camera on the headset. Maybe it's not capable of it, but being powered by a PC kind of feels like if you bought a Rift S, you're kind of missing out right now. You're kind of you probably sat there at home, super excited about this keynote. I'm going to see all these games. I've bought a Rift S recently. Can't wait to see what all this new stuff is coming. And then you're everything that was Quest is maybe I didn't buy the right headset this year.
The weird thing is that they haven't mentioned anything about finger tracking for the Rift S at all. They haven't said that it's not coming. They haven't said that it's coming. So we're kind of a little bit left in the blue about what is really going to happen now with this Rift S? Is there going to be finger tracking for that? Is it technologically not possible? We just plain simply don't know.
I mean, this kind of finger tracking technology has been around for 5 years. It's not a amazing thing. I was talking to a bunch of dudes who are more technically adept than I am, and they were this is honestly something that's, it's not that technically impressive. It's nice to have it. It's the right way forward. General consensus. But
at the same
why is Rift S getting not mentioned?
But at the same time, what I do find technologically impressive is you have to think about it. This is a moving camera, that is tracking two moving objects in a varying scene, and it's all being done on a mobile processor in real time. I mean, I do find that impressive that they managed to do that on the Oculus Quest, but I do want to see it on the Oculus Rift S as well.
Exactly, and out of all of us, you're the only one that tried it, right? I think.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
So okay, let me then tell you.
Upon
Yes, sure.
the
No.
story.
So, of course, I play a lot with the Leap Motion. I would say it wasn't better than Leap Motion. I know we're getting into this vague territory again. What that means, I don't know. If you tried Leap Motion, then it's sometimes I was losing my hands, and then I had to you really need to hold them up front and kind of point your head into the right direction to to make it happen.
a specific angle.
I also, it was also a little bit delayed, so there were like
right.
it was
There was
not.
latency in there.
Yeah, there was, and also when you were walking, because you could also physically walk, and you could like kind of feel your hands kind of falling behind
Like a
in a way.
stutter?
Yeah.
Like a stutter that you were having as you were walking, right?
Exactly. And I should also mention that we at home have a Vive Focus, and I did try the hand tracking on that,
Yeah.
and it's way better than what they have right now.
Yeah.
Of course, no one has a Vive Focus because it's nowhere to. But I don't know. It's nice, but
I think most people were underwhelmed when on their first attempt at it. Now, I'll like to experience it myself, but just like what we saw with the launch of the Rift S and the Quest's tracking, the nice thing about it not being a hardware problem is that actually the software can be upgraded and tweaked and tuned over time, which we're seeing happen not only in games and that, but also these applications and the camera tracking, and this is just another piece of those packages. But what they're being able to do with a phone, essentially, is cool. Like, I mean, this is awesome. I mean, I do have to say that from the keynote when they're basically showing, here's 2 years ago, you need all these bits. There were about 8 bits on the table, and they took all that away, and all that was left was a Quest with a little branding that said soon. And I think that is truly the dream. You just want to pick that up because honestly, if it's your grandma or whatever and you hand her a headset, you really don't want to have to strap her into the controls. You know what I mean?
that's the thing. Like, it makes it easier. Like, a lot of people don't know how controllers work. They constantly press the wrong buttons. So it's definitely a step into the right direction. But it's just that right now they showed this video at the keynote. I'm sure we're showing it here on the podcast too now. That's not what it's like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's of course they always make these fancy trailers with everything, but that's not how smooth it is. That's not how. I just want to like it's let's say a year or two away before this is actually, and it's not. And I also don't feel like it's for everyone. It's not like we're gonna see hand tracking take over completely, but it's a nice add-on for sure, and it will make it easier for some people to access a VR.
It's like a logical step, right, in the right direction. It does also highlight, the emphasis that like Facebook is putting on the Quest, and like a little bit taking it away from like the shine of the Rift S. Since I mean, the majority that we've seen on the previous keynote and on this keynote has been Oculus Quest, of course. Like last time it made sense because it was the new launch platform for Oculus. But now it's also like you see it in the booths, you see it in like everything that's been shown with the other stuff that they announced as well. The main focus is still here, the Oculus Quest, right?
But I don't feel the same laser focus I've seen in past Oculus Connects, where you're like clear on the message and the platform. Here it's a bit like, okay, so we're shunting the Rift S a little bit. I mean, I like the Rift S. This is still my daily driver. But at the same time, they left that until like 3/4 of the way through the presentation where they're like, oh, you're getting these 2 games and everyone here gets them for free. Feels like a little bit of a pat on the back, and it's like, be happy and go away. But like the confusing message that I'm getting from Oculus in general is, okay, Quest is the headset. This is our dream ship. It's selling great. People love it. Beat Saber, get on board. And there's for good reason, right? And it's selling well for good reason. But it's a bit weird that then on the dev story, what I hear a lot along the floor is develop my game for Quest and I can't get it out. I'm getting blocked. And there doesn't seem to be a place for those developers who have either put time already into their title and they're ready to launch, or they've even gone to the door and they've been, fighting with the gatekeepers to kind of get onto the platform. Because in the end of the day, it's a monopoly here that we've got. And who doesn't want that access? And if you're a developer, that's the difference between success and failure in this market.
Yeah, absolutely. Just quickly to go back to sort of the finger tracking. I think it's a free update after all. Like, so you can't really complain too much. And I think in social applications like Altspace, where I've tried Leap Motion before, and that was really impressive, like in a social experience, because people are like magically like hypnotized by your fingers moving, in VR. So I think that's going to be super cool. Like, everyone can just touch my head now. Yeah, that's fine. We're doing this.
That's exactly what happens in Altspace, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're there moving your fingers like this, people come over and rub your head.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
The only thing that I'm still missing is that we spoke like last podcast about like ultra haptics. It's you don't feel it,
Yeah.
and I miss those haptics. So it's nice, but it's like playing air guitar. That's what it is.
That's also what Michael Aber said in the last one. What we actually really need is like a tactile feedback glove. That's the real future of VR, that you put a glove on and you get that feedback into your fingers. How they're going to do that, of course, nobody knows yet, but there's a lot of companies that are working on something like that. So
Is that also going to be free?
Definitely yes.
I think
Because I mean, in the end, like hand tracking is basically like air in a way, so that's why it's free.
Well, quick vote here, lads. So like we're all gamers, right? We all play games seriously and take them seriously. Is a finger tracking solution ever going to give you the same kind of vibe that you want for gaming? You know what I mean? Like experiential stuff, yeah, I can see it, but
this is a good point because I met with the Beat Saber devs last night and I said about the finger tracking. I said, oh, so when are we going to get Beat Saber, finger tracking like this? And he said, like, unfortunately, it's just not good enough. Like the latency isn't good enough for playing a game. Like if you want to do small movements, like yeah, okay, thumbs up, give someone the finger, but as soon as you start occluding the other hand, it causes problems. So slow, controlled movements with your hands are fine, but fast, rapid movements, it's just not going to work. So I would say again, like social applications, probably where this is going to shine. You know, we know from Facebook that they announced Facebook Horizons, which we'll touch on later on. So I'm sure that that'll be like a big feature of that platform.
But it sounds like it's also like right now it's not consumer ready yet. It's kind of like they're showing it off. It's cool to like you can be a test monkey in the end with their free update.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like social experiences mostly.
Yeah.
Even with Leap Motion, like Leap Motion has been around for so long.
Yeah.
And they did make some demos, some developers did.
Yeah.
But you've never seen a big push.
And this is the point. No finger tracking technology is consumer ready right now. So I guess by doing this update, they're kind of making it consumer ready.
And
you know,
you don't want to turn it into Connect experiences either, like what Xbox did. Like you
definitely.
kind of want to blend it in, but not in an arcadey way. You don't want to have like Nintendo Wii kind of like things happening.
Yeah, and one thing I should highlight before we move on to Zim is that the reason why you're the only one that's tried this at this event is just purely because we haven't had access to it. It is busy here on the show floor, and if you want to try something like this, you've got to wait like an hour to 3 hours. And we've been fully stacked with appointments here, so it's just not an opportunity to try it, unfortunately.
The thing is, like when we were sitting outside here, just when the floor opened, people were like fighting almost to like be the first to get in there. Like I saw someone fell while he was like running towards like the show floor in order to be like one of the first in the line, so they didn't have to wait for like 3 hours in order to try this.
they actually locked the lines within 20 minutes of the shore floor opening today to say we may not have enough time. And that there's a few factors of that, right? I mean, like Medal of Honor, for instance, is showing, and it's got a 30 hours. Jesus, 30 hours. I was to the field and now I'm home. 30-minute demo, but like that length demo, honestly, like from a show floor policy, I kind of feel like that shouldn't be allowed. Like 15 minutes anyway is a lot, but like 30 minutes, who needs 30 minutes?
Or they need a lot of boots to do that. If you have a lot of boots, then you can do that.
This is
But
the thing we're seeing with the show floor design this time. I don't understand. You know your attendee count. Why are there so few pods? Is it the fact that they had to ship equipment here and they decided to scale back on costs for shipping? Because that could be it. That could be a factor. This is not their convention hall. They have to ship stuff, over the ground. But I'm really surprised because usually what we see is day one, kind of press floats in. They're around for about 2 hours after the keynote, and then they all feck off. And then, everyone else is kind of left with, pretty decent queues. Nothing more than an hour. Yeah. And then this year, there seems to be this kind of combination of factors where it's like fewer pods and longer queues, and it's a general problem. Like everyone across the groups that I've been speaking with have been having the same issue, and most people have said, oh, I'll wait for day two. And now, 20 minutes after the keynote, oh, sorry, lines are closed.
And I should also mention that the badges we have, we're not press here. So we're streamers, but at this event, streamer doesn't mean anything. So you could walk up to the press booth and say like, listen, can I try hand tracking this, or can I, because there are certain, let's say, websites, media outlets that get early access, maybe even before Oculus Connect starts, or right now they have an appointment and they can just try it. They don't have to stand in line. But for us, it's like, we don't.
Yeah.
It's a bit harder.
And something we should mention, and we have to mention by law as well, is the fact that Oculus sponsored us to be here, right? They paid for our flights, they paid for our accommodation, and obviously our job here at the show floor is to deliver, our hands-on experiences with these new technology and games to you guys and girls, our audience. But we don't have the opportunity to do that. So it's a very strange thing from Oculus, but it is what it is. But that's the situation we're in. But thankfully, I think amongst the four of us, we've tried the majority of the big pillars of the event. So at least one of us can each talk about something that we tried and give that perspective.
I can tell you, I was actually standing in line to talk about it at the podcast. Like we were communicating together. It's like, okay, did you try this? Okay,
Yeah.
I tried that. So kind of balance it out. So everyone has to stand in a certain line, but kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just sad that none of us has tried Medal of Honor. I wanted to, but there's not much time. And as you said, the queues are long. I would really like to do that. But 3 hours, like it's eating up a lot of your time, and there's so much else going on. And
I think it's actually going to be not tenable for a lot of this. So, I mean, I think even after this, it'll make sense to divide and conquer between us. But Mike, like you were saying, I mean, in terms of just to move on to what we liked, what was our highlight, I think I'll just mention that actually, I mean, I played with Tyrael Stormland multiplayer, which is actually quite a bit of fun. I think you guys got to play it together as well. So it's probably worthwhile mentioning. Compared to the original Stormland demo, it's kind of the same kind of setting. You're like flying over clouds, and that feels totally badass. Like you're totally Supermaning across the land. The enemies, there are some pretty badass like robots that are coming at you, and they are a bit daunting. You are taking damage. I did die a few times. I'm pretty good at FPSs, so I'd say that it's not easy street. And then you kind of revive at a save or checkpoint, and then you are back at it, grabbing weapons again. Your weapons do run out of ammo. The thing I thought that was didn't work so well is you like try to like pick a weapon up. It's great that you got the extensibility of that weapon, so it turns from like a pistol into like a machine gun. But you can also accidentally, and I did this several times, rip your gun in half. And you're like, oh no, I just broke another one. And then you pick that one up, you break that in half, you're like, what am I doing? And then some of the levers and stuff don't work so well, but the multiplayer is really solid. But, this is the big but, there doesn't seem to be any thing that requires like 2 operators or more, right? And so like there's this pod thing, I forget what they were called, keys or something like that, and you find them. And I thought it would have been perfect game design if it's a 2-player match, activate 2 handles, get both people to turn one at the same time.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome. And then you also you protect the multiplayer game experience, because you're saying if Mike likes to go a bit faster than Nathan, he's running forward, he's got to slow his ass down and wait for Nathan to catch up. Because we've all got friends who try to soldier through games ahead of us, and it's like, come on, let me keep pace with you.
the thing is, like, yeah, we played it as well. And where it goes wrong straight away is like when Mike and I play a multiplayer, we usually try to high five first of all.
Yeah.
And my hand goes straight through Mike's hand.
Yeah.
And that's where it just like straight away like, okay, so what's the rest going to be? But in the end, I could have, of course it's fun to chit chat with Mike, but I could have also played it single player. It's not like I really needed Mike to play.
You're right. It's the same demo essentially, so you can play it single player or cooperatively. But Zim makes a really valid point in that there's no real cooperative, unique missions or objectives that you have to play cooperatively to get the best experience out of, which is a missed opportunity. I totally agree. But it's kind of funny because we did play it co-op and we were having fun with it and, shooting stuff. And we did have some issues with the map as well. Like, and HUD was like there and then it wasn't, and it was kind of tricky. But we were getting into it, we're having some fun. And then we decided to have a race up a building.
Oh, that's so good.
And we were making it like competitive amongst the two of us, and then Nathan got stuck in the building and it broke the demo. So we were like, we can't progress if we had an allotted time slot. So that was it. It was done.
The climbing, I have to say, the climbing is done really well. It's like sprint vector style in that you can grab and kind of throw yourself up a bit, but it's got this weird like concentric circle that points like, where am I going to grab? And you do the grabs on pretty much any surface you want for vertical ascension. Did you guys find the lava underneath the world? No. There's like this beautiful like Minecraft style lava pit underground, and you can go down there and there's chests of guns and stuff. But like the visual lighting effects there were really nice. So for anyone who does get a chance to try the demo out, I don't know if that's going to be launched publicly, but if you attended here, you get a free copy of Asgard's Wrath and a free copy of Stormland.
One thing I just want to highlight as well is that it doesn't, I don't know if it felt to you, but like we tried a Stormland demo this time last year, right? At OC5. And really, for me, the game hasn't changed dramatically since then. I think it did have an upgrade in visuals slightly in some of the more darker levels, which we saw at Boston. But certainly like gameplay mechanics are still intact. So they've obviously been polishing it, and I appreciate that. But it's just like, let's get this game out already, because like Rift owners have been waiting for like this game forever, it seems.
I mean, there's some really nice bits about it. Like the grenade system is freaking badass. You knock a grenade, you chuck it off, and it blows stuff to pieces, which is what you want from a grenade. But in terms of Stormland, the thing I don't understand, seems like Oculus Studios doesn't like plural. You know, we got Stormland, not Stormlands. We've got Horizon, not Horizons, which you said earlier, Mike. I got to correct you there. But like, what is it? Are they against plurals? Like, it's just easier. There's got to be Stormlands and Horizons, and for some reason, it's more dramatic.
But yeah, no, I'm still totally hyped for Stormland. You know, of course, I'm still looking forward to it. I think it is going to be a great game. I think, you know, we're fortunate enough to have played it a year ago and again now, so it's kind of like it feels like it's an older game than it actually is because it isn't even out yet. But I'm very excited for the Stormland, and playing it co-op was fun, so I am looking forward to doing that more when it releases.
It's a lot like Ubisoft's title. What was the FPS that I'm thinking of? It's a lot like Space Junkies in that you don't see a huge amount of progress. I think the enemies, some of the HUD elements, like you said, have progressed. But otherwise, I just hope they don't fall into that trap. Obviously, they're not going to because we got a release date.
At the same time, it does make a lot of sense that like the last year before their release, they're not going to be like changing like intricate game details or like, you know, like graphical and representation. It's more like, I would say like polishing up and trying to like get like some stuff properly working instead of like introducing new things, right?
And we should highlight that the game is coming out on November the 14th. And like you say, if you were here, you get the game for free, which is kind of nice.
What's the? Do you know? Is the max player count 4, or is it only co-op?
2.
2.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So then I'm really interested. Like, if we're progressing the campaign together, and you decide, okay,
Oh no,
Zim's not
no.
around.
No, correct. Correction. I think it is 4 actually. I think it is 4 because they were talking about raids last year, which got me excited. So I think it was multiple players.
Yeah.
But I have to confirm that because I'm not 100% on it.
But that how do you deal with progression isn't something we've seen answered so far, and can actually make or break a multiplayer game. Because if we're progressing together, right, and then I want to play with someone else, we like From Other Suns does it pretty well, where you've got a save file that's on the host, and if the host wants to progress, invite the friends around and keep going, right? And that kind of system I'd like to see in this game.
It's like a looter shooter, but there's no progression in that. It's like Borderlands, but there's no level up system in there. And you could say, yeah, it's a demo. But on the other side, we're talking about November. That's almost around the corner. So what we're playing here is pretty close to, you know what I mean?
Although the character progression, there is some in that you can like physically take off your arm and upgrade it, which is a really cool mechanic, by the way, which we saw last year, but we haven't seen any of that this year. But I think there is level progression and also weapon progression as well in terms of like different levels of weapons. So yeah. But yeah, Stormland, I think it's going to be a great game. Still looking forward to it. But yeah, so that's that. So maybe we should move on to Rowdy then, because I'm excited about this one. I know what your highlight is already.
So one more thing, because I know they mentioned like pre-order the game. I would just wait out the reviews, then decide if you want to buy it. Because pre-ordering means you buy something, but you don't know if it's good or not. Even that we played this demo, we don't know what the full experience is going to be like.
So Asgard's Wrath, $40. This is also a $40 title?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
I think it is going to be, yeah. Okay.
So, Rowdy, what did you play?
I got to try out, I mean, I didn't get to try out anything on the show floor, but just because the queues were too long. But I did get to try out Pistol Whip.
You bastard.
I know, right? I just ran into Danny and I was like, I love your t-shirt. I want to play it. And he was like, you can play it. And I was like, yes. I mean, what I tried was a prototype. It's like an early demo kind of thing that they were showing. None of it is officially confirmed in the game, but holy heck, it's the best thing that I've tried in like, well, maybe ever. Like, it's absolutely amazing. I wouldn't really categorize it as a rhythm game per se. I would categorize it as like a pistol game which has like rhythm added to it. It's like Super Hot and like Beat Saber had a baby, but the real father is like John Wick. You know, like it's like something in between there. Like you feel like a total badass when you're playing that game. It's unbelievable. And what I really liked was the way that they put music in there. It's like if you want it to be a rhythm game, it can be a rhythm game. But if you say like, you know, like I don't really care about the rhythm that much, you could just play it as a general shooter.
Or you suck at like beat rhythm detection
Yeah,
because some
exactly.
people are
Yeah.
just not good at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can just play it as a regular shooter.
I'm so puzzled though. Like you're like a loner story like guy. Like why is this pressing your buttons?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because I find it strange as well because I'm always the guy like says like, oh, I like storyline. But at the same time, this just made perfect sense, and it only makes sense again in virtual reality. It's one of those games that, you know, like Beat Saber does. Well, I love Beat Saber. Like Beat Saber is great, but I would never play it on a 2D screen. I never would play it.
This is the thing, like, so as soon as Rowdy told me he got to play it, I was super jealous, and I was like, I hunted out the Cloudhead Games team. I was like, I really want to play the demo. They were like, sure, give me a demo on the hallway, and yeah, like it instantly became my favorite experience of the show. And do you know when you play a game and you just know, like it's got that sort of like hook where you want to play again and want to play again and want to play again, just like Beat Saber originally did. And obviously, like Super Hot is one of my favorite games. So this is like, say, a combination of the best of Beat Saber and the best of like Super Hot. And I was just like, you're onto a hit here. Like this is going to be a winning game. So yeah, I would say that Pistol Whipped, definitely one to keep an eye out for. Pistol Whip. There's no whipped. Yeah, sorry. But it's kind of like, it's got like that physicality to it as well. Like because you're constantly like ducking down on your like squatting down. So you're going to be having a workout as well. Like I was like sweating like so much on normal mode. And he was saying, because it's got like auto detection. So if you're shooting roughly in the direction of an enemy, it will register. But there's like a hardcore mode where you can turn all that aim assist off and it's actually like your skills. And like Rowdy mentioned, it's like you feel like John Wick, because the music is pumping, you're moving through like maybe a nightclub, you're like dodging bullets like super hot style, and then like doing like a side shoot, and then like shooting a guy on a balcony. There's all like verticality going on as well. So yeah, it's great.
And the crazy thing, and I have to highlight this, like the way that they integrated music in this game is just plain brilliant. With Beat Saber, when you're playing it and you know the blocks when you smash them, it becomes like part of the track. They have something like that as well, but they went like a step beyond that. So it's not only when you shoot with your pistols, it's also when the guys like shoot at you. So if you shoot them before they shoot you, you don't get that effect. But if they shoot you, you get that bullet effect there as well. And then the bullet that comes in your direction, it also has a sound effect to it. So when you're like dodging it, it goes like, wow. And that is integrated into the music track as well. So it's really cool when you get people to actually shoot at you, because you get wow, like you get like a music
A real
style
rhythm
going.
And it's not always the exact same.
Exactly.
I was curious about the music track. You guys heard this is a custom track? Like this is not a music that you recognized.
I didn't recognize it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's custom or not. I would assume that it's custom, but it was bang on.
Let's assume for a moment you guys are both spot on. I'm sure you are, and I will have to track them down and play this. But in terms of the music behind it, right? Like Beat Saber, right? It originally launched 10 tracks, and people are like, yay! And then 3 months into like, less yay, I want my music in there. Do you foresee that being possible, or because of the way it's stitched together that you mentioned, it's only going to be the curated tracks that they decide to launch?
Yeah, like for me personally, I think the community will definitely want it without doubt. Custom tracks, but I think these are going to be harder to map out than just like a Beat Saber track. But I'm sure the community being the community, they're going to find a way because they always will. But I can foresee it that just like Beat Saber, setting the precedent here, that they're going to be securing like legit like tracks from artists in the future for this game. It makes total sense. But yeah, like it's just one of those games that you can't put down until your legs just ache so much that you can't physically play. But I should also mention that it's coming out on the 7th of November on Steam VR, Oculus, and Quest as well.
It's I played it as well. It's like a Temple Runner in a way, because you stand still and then the map just moves in front of you, and you really need to use your space too. Like there's so many games that are just standing experiences, and you have to use the thumbstick to like move. We get real lazy nowadays, and the developers also give us the tools to do that. If they force you to move in your physical space, then you would do it more. And with this one, it's like you really need to step aside or go forward or backwards or lean down, things like that. And that's what I like. I want to see more room scale, because this title is coming out on almost every platform. It's not only Quest. In case of Quest, I'm like, finally, I can really have a bigger space and then move around in that, instead of always having to just walk around myself.
And the thing is, it looks so cool as well, because every time that they were demoing at a different location, you immediately had like 10-20 people that would like gather around. I was like, what's going on over there? Like what are they playing? Like that looks pretty awesome. Like,
and it's also worth mentioning we only played it with one controller. Like we had one controller, and you instinctively were cupping your other hand like this straight out, like
Says the cop, the ex-cop.
yeah, my previous John Wick training came in handy there. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. It's worth mentioning as well that they've got live support already for PC. So I think this is going to be the next big game that VR streamers like, Cutie Pop that we met here at the show floor, Rage Sack, that predominantly play like mixed reality Beat Saber content. As soon as the 7th of November hits, they're going to be playing this game. And I think you guys are going to love this one.
So one thing I want to mention is just like this game seems badass. It obviously uses your physical space and you're ducking and dodging, weaving. I hope if not at launch, they consider accessibility for people who don't have that freedom of movement. Mm-hmm. I say it because these games, again, like a Beat Saber, are epic cornerstones of the experience. And I hope that element of the community also get to enjoy this one.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. A really good point. So yeah, definitely keep your eye on Pistol Whip coming on the 7th of November. So as that was my favorite of the show, I do want to highlight another game to sort of talk about something I played because it was my highlight yesterday. So until I played Pistol Whip, it was my favorite game of the show. And that was Pixel Ripped 1999. So this is 1995, sorry.
That's the third one.
Oh, 1995, yeah. So this is from Avery, obviously the sequel to Pixel Rip 1989. Yeah, got it right that time. And it's got the same lovely charm like the original game has, taking you straight back to your childhood gaming days.
But now in HD.
Yeah, absolutely. And the demo we played basically was like Castlevania sort of themed demo, which I was really digging, like down to the music and the art style. And basically you're a child in your bedroom playing on your console this Castlevania game, and your mum's like comes in and she says like, it's time for bed now, it's too late, you need to turn the game off, you need to go to sleep, you got a big day tomorrow or whatever. And you're like, oh crap, I just want to finish my game, I haven't saved it or whatever, I haven't got to set a checkpoint. So she leaves you and she trusts you to turn it off, and then you like turn the TV back on and you're like playing again. And the funny thing is, like, when you walk over like wooden objects in the Castlevania game, it makes the creaking noise that your mum then hears, and she wakes up and she's like, is he playing the game again? So she comes and like, she can hear her footsteps, and then you got to turn the TV off again and just wait until she goes back to bed, and you can hear her snoring.
It's awesome.
So just like the original game, it's like a game within a game.
It's a great concept.
It's a fantastic concept. It's a fantastic concept. And all I said to the devs was like, just turning the TV off alone maybe wasn't as satisfying as maybe also turning the TV off and grabbing the covers, because as a kid you would do that, wouldn't you? You'd like grab the covers and then pretend you were asleep. And then when they go, you're like, okay, turn it back on again. So I just said, if I was going to improve anything, that's the only thing I would add. But I just thought it was a really charming and lovely nostalgia experience.
It's funny that you say that, Mike, because I did that inherently when I was playing the game. I would close my eyes. Actually, I didn't have to, but I did. I closed my eyes and do that, like pretending I was asleep, with the TV remote in my hand, ready to turn it back on again. And the one thing that I thought was, like the lights would go on in the hall, so you knew mom was up. And I said, it would be great if you could cast a shadow so that she wasn't maybe looking at you, but like you knew she was standing in the doorway, like just about to come in. That would have been really cool. But I have to say, they kept the difficulty, which I liked. So it wasn't like, it's not an easy game, especially the end boss. I died probably 4 times before clearing him, but it was like, it was really satisfying. They really do this blend of taking, like, it's like a canvas. You have an artistic person, they've got a canvas, and they use the little spot in the middle. And then when they want to flare, they flare into like the third dimension. Or so you get trained into, I'm just playing this TV, you focus on that, the background all disappears, and before you know it, boom, you're back into this, like, and they play with that so much, this back and forth between full VR and the kind of boxed in game. You got a chance to play it as well. You played it on Quest.
I did play it on Quest, and it looks amazing. And it's not just, it's not always this pixelated world you're in. You're sometimes also in the real world, and it all looked great. And what I thought was awesome, just a little, like flair thing, was that when I was playing in my little bedroom and it was raining outside, like sometimes the thunder was kicking in, the lightning, and then I was like reflecting on the screen, so I could barely see, so I could actually make a mistake at that moment. And that's just great, where it feels like the first game felt like still like something I would play on Oculus Share. It did feel like a good game for consumers, but you could also see that it was, well, not outdated, but this one feels way more, future-proof in a way, exactly. So no, it's amazing, and they deserve all the love. It's It's awesome.
I even had a 4D experience. I was there in the game, playing away, all that, enjoying myself, and then I take the headset off, and boom, Nathan and David are there, like standing next to me. I was like, shit, because they had the volume of the headphones really high up. I had no idea. That was a bit odd. My brain took a leap there. I was like, whoa, how'd you all of a sudden materialize? That was good programming.
And it's worth mentioning that the devs are obviously trying to port the original Pixel Ripped over to Quest as well, if you never got to play it on Quest. But this game, the new game, 1995, was developed with Quest and Rift at the same time. And they're also eventually going to come to PSVR as well. But yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on is Pixel Ripped 1995. So let's talk about some of the stuff from the keynote then. And one of obviously we talked about finger tracking, which was an important part of the keynote. Again, a lot of the keynote was Quest-centric, which we've mentioned on earlier. Not much love for the Rift owners out there, unfortunately. But let's talk about Oculus Link, because it kind of like ties in nicely. So Oculus Link is a functionality that's going to be added to Quest, so you can basically tether your Quest to a PC. And it was one of our predictions on our show last week. And surprisingly, actually, like, bearing in mind we normally get a lot of the predictions wrong, we got quite a few of these right, particularly around software sales, the tethering, and also around Medal of Honor being a World War game. AR as well. So this Oculus Link, it will basically allow you to connect your Quest to your PC using the cable that comes in the box, which is USB-C on both ends. So you'll just have to bear that in mind if you don't have a USB-C connection on your PC. And then Oculus stated that if you don't have that, then they're going to be selling an additional cable later on down the line.
USB-C connection on your PC.
Yeah,
that's okay. So because you can't. I don't think you can take a USB-C to USB 2 jack for it, because the compression algorithm requires a certain bandwidth,
Right.
which only USB-C allows.
It's a particular type of USB-C too.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not just any USB-C. It's one that delivers the right output.
Yeah.
Also, USB-C is quite rare. Like most like high-end motherboards have USB-C.
Yeah.
But just let's say the standard ones don't. So.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to be releasing a separate cable that you can buy if you don't have a USB-C connection on your PC. But that kind of gets around like this whole Wi-Fi streaming business that we like mentioned on last week's show, because you can do that via SideQuest with Steam VR. So this is their solution, and I think it's great that we've got this solution. I think it was a hole in the market that they thought, this is a gap here. And I'm convinced that this was ready from day one when Quest launched, but they were like, if we launch this with a Quest, we're literally going to sell 0 Rift S. So they must have held this one in the bag and waited for later for this one.
Yeah, because that's what we spoke about last week, where I said like, what if they blur the lines between Rift S and Quest? There will be less reasons to still get this PC VR headset, and it's clear from the keynote in general that Facebook believes in standalone. They have seen the numbers. They're like, wow, this is the way forward. Like, let's say yesterday, PC VR died a little bit, and it kind of went a step back instead of forward. It feels like standalone is, taking over right now.
I do agree with that, but I find it like maybe like a little step too far to say that like PC VR has died a little bit, because I went to the Karma keynote as well, and he talked about like compression and like how it works for the Oculus Link. Let's make this very clear that the highest fidelity you will still get on the Oculus Rift S. It's still a compressed signal that is being sent to the Oculus Quest. That's not to be forgotten. Also, they're resampling everything that is getting sent to the Oculus Quest. And I believe that even that there's a frame skipped. I'm not entirely sure about that, how it works exactly in order to get. But in order to get that, it still needs to run on the Oculus Quest. So they need to resample it in a certain way in order to get it. So the highest fidelity will, and I will believe that will always be the Oculus Rift S.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning, that this is going to be coming out early next year, again as a free update. But of course, if you don't have that USB-C, you'll need to buy the additional cable. But of course, we need to highlight the fact that you'll still need a VR-capable PC to run this. And I think if you've got a VR-capable PC, then, your chances are you may already have like an original Rift, for example.
And from my side of this, I think that because of how they're working, the compression, getting it through the cable, decompressing on the headset, to me, having a tethered headset sucks. Like, I don't want a cable if I'm on the Quest. And my choice would be still, if they don't come down on it some other way, is SideQuested Virtual Desktop. Now, it doesn't work very well. Out of my kind of friend circle in VR, it seems that ISPs, the routers that they ship, aren't very solid here in the US. So for a US market, that cable's going to be a godsend because you're going to get finally a chance to experience
said as
the
well.
kind of compressed, tetherless kind of Steam VR integration or Oculus Home integration that you really want with a cable that's, I don't know if you've seen the price. It's rumored at $80 is the price. So that's not cheap as a bolt-on. That's like I need to save up my lunch money and buy this cable.
Until like the Chinese people find out, and then they sell their own cables, and you can just buy some for like $10.
Amazon Basics.
But at the same time, like, I mean, it's important to say, like, currently, like, you probably can get a better result using indeed 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi.
So good. But
Fantastic. But the problem is, not everyone has that.
Yeah.
And Facebook is all about mass adoption. They want the Oculus Quest to be for everyone, and everyone can plug a cable into their PC. I'm not saying everyone has a USB-C connection, because that's something they need to get around, but they're probably like with the cable that you just mentioned, you need to get that. But like 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi is still like, not for everyone. Like not everyone has that.
But just think about this cable. People are going to be like, oh, Stormland, Asgard's Wrath, Lone Echo 2. They're going to be sitting there for 3 months going, give me the fucking cable. I need the cable. You know what I mean? Like Quest owners with a PC that's capable, but not quite enough to run it, and not if they don't have Rift S. So.
But going back to like, I've been scrolling through Reddit a little bit. That's sometimes a good idea, sometimes a bad idea, you know. But hey, but somewhere like, I just bought my Rift S, let's say 2 months ago. Can't return it anymore because 30 days, and now this comes out. It's like some people feel like they got tricked in buying this, and it almost feels like the Rift S was some kind of phase. It always felt like a funky headset in the whole lineup, but this makes it only worse. And as you said, they waited with the cable so they could sell Rift S, but like because of this cable getting announced, and you can say like, yes, some people like high fidelity, but there are enough people that don't care about that. They're not fanatics in that sense, but it makes the Rift S less relevant now.
Yeah.
It makes it less interesting, a lot less interesting.
I totally agree, and we know from day one that Rift owners have kind of been screwed over a bit. Like Quest had Vader Immortal, Rift S owners were like, I just bought a Rift S. When am I going to get to play it? Didn't come till like a month later. Now this with the tethering with the Quest and the finger tracking, I think you're kind of thinking, oh, this is kind of sucks. So I do feel bad for them. Although, like Zim mentioned, it is still one of my daily driver headsets. I do still enjoy using it, and I would probably I would prefer to use the Rift S over the Quest tethering solution. I'm glad that it exists, and I think it is a bit of a kick in the nuts for people that bought a Rift S, but ultimately it's still a great headset.
One thing I must say, right, at this point, I can remember us a year ago being like, oh, we don't have the perfect headset. We want the various bits kind of bolted together. I was kind of more happy, I think, with the CV1 as a holistic package than I am with my Rift S, the touch controls, and then the wireless of the Quest. Because ideally, I'd be like, Index headset, because their audio is amazing, and the panel's pretty good. And then I'd couple that with touch controllers and cut the cable. Mike showed us how to do that.
But I totally agree. Like for the VR enthusiast, it's you want to have more than one headset. But for regular consumer, I think now they want to jump into VR for the first time. There's even more reason to buy a Quest, and this will kind of decrease the Rift S sales even more.
Yeah. No, exactly. So that is like Oculus Link. Oh, sorry.
But on the positive side, though, here we go. Here it comes. Wait for it. People are constantly asking, "Hey, why can't I play this PC game on my Quest?" That's not going to be a problem anymore. For developers, they can sell more. Maybe even porting over things is going to be,
Yeah, I wonder how it's going to be for like porting titles, like because a lot of people have invested time, money, and resources in order to port a title over to the Quest. But maybe now they say like, why should we port it over if people can already play it on the Quest just by using a cable?
And we've talked about 2 of 3 headsets that they have, and I have to laugh. I went to Best Buy here. The brick and mortar shop in the States is big for electronics. You go there, you can buy pretty much any of the popular things. I looked at their Oculus cabinet. It changed from last year. They've got their 3 headsets there. But when you've got something important, like, I don't know, in the UK we have Razer blades for some reason, that it says, you have to go and get this from somewhere else, or it's got a security tag on it. Well, the Rift S wasn't there, and it says, oh, we got that. We got that down the back. You got to go get help to get it. The Quest wasn't there, but there was a pile of Go's right there. So it kind of gave this impression of like, here's the pile of rubbish that nobody wants, and if you want any of the quality headsets, you can go and get them. But I was laughing at that.
And that's a really good point, actually. We should mention this because part of the keynote is about Oculus Go emulation coming to Quest. and they said that they're going to port like the top 50 Go games. They're going to bring them to Quest, which is great because some of those games you just can't play on Quest. Like we met up with the developer, one of the PR sort of dev relations for Turtle Rock.
Yeah.
And Face Your Fears 2 is on Quest, but the original Face Your Fears, a lot of people loved that because it was these unique little dioramas that you could put yourself into that were utterly terrifying. So hopefully that will be one of the titles that comes to Quest. But it did get kind of a bit of a simmered response from the audience in the keynote, right?
Well, for me, I thought we were going to get full-on Go emulation. Kind of like, this feels a lot like back in the day when the Wii brought over emulation for its earlier titles. And it's like, oh, we're going to drip feed titles that have made the cut or have been recoded. And that's the thing that I'm surprised at. Developers I know, like you've had the ability before, developers have had the ability to make their games work with a Quest. So it is very much still a gated thing. I was not expecting this to be behind an OK Go signal, and that's what it is. And if they don't bring Narrows over, which is my favorite Go title, I'm going to get very strumpy, very angry indeed.
Yeah. Like for me, like it's the same story with Go. It's like they just suck all of like the potential of the Go into the Quest right now.
Yeah.
They suck all the PC potential into the Quest right now.
Yeah.
Like all they use everything that was good about Go and everything was good about Rift S into the Quest. So the Go is like, I feel like as you said, like they're everywhere. You can buy them almost everywhere. I feel like the Go is kind of like the funeral started or something. And it's sad because I always said that the Go deserved more momentum for sure. And because Quest, of course, like Quest is like, just a killer headset that the Go will not be able to compete with. But like, the headset doesn't have positional tracking, but I don't think that's that bad. And it's still so much going on, but they kind of leave it now. They kind of abandoned it. And even at the keynote, people are almost not clapping for the Go anymore. I'm like, what the heck? Did everyone forget it? Came out like...
Absolutely. It wasn't long. It was like a year ago. But I love that Zuckerberg said, like, now you have VR in a shoebox, and that's it. Because like, as someone who's like packing for an international trip, unfortunately now the Quest gives me with Virtual Desktop an ability to hook back to my PC at home and play games that you couldn't even imagine being on Quest. And it's like, how can I not bring it? I had to bring a whole suitcase. You guys know I travel light. I never bring a suitcase. I had to bring it just to bring my Quest along.
But I think for the Oculus Go, it's even worse now because they actually also announced that Oculus Rooms, which we have been extremely positive about, which is a thing that we want to see across all of the headset, that they're not going to continue with that anymore.
It's like you stop the service now for people who invested into Go. And as you said, it's about a year ago. And it's like you invested into it, and now they kind of, again, screw you over, where it's like, oh, you can't be social anymore. There are people who have family on the other side of the planet, and they bought it because of that, and now they can't do that anymore. And you're just casual like, okay, you were just going to cancel it. I was like, are you going to replace it with something else? Because, Facebook Horizon is coming. But no. And it's just like, why is the Go still a thing? Like, I feel like if you buy a headset, you get at least 2 years of service or 3 years of service. But this is like...
There's like no notice. That's the main problem I have, is that the amount of notice that they're giving in advance of these shutdowns is really short. Or in some cases, it's just a shock announcement.
Yeah, like for me, like Oculus Rooms was one of like the killer apps on Go. It was the most fun social experience you could experience on the Go, and the audio fidelity was incredible. I still don't know how they managed to pull that off. Like it was amazing, and just hanging out in the room playing like Monopoly together or Boggle, it was just so much fun, and we don't have that anymore anywhere else. And it was unique to the Go, so it's really sad. I'm really sad to see it go. But maybe they just didn't have the uptake or the user base that used it regularly enough. And I can understand it from their point of view, but it's still a big loss, I think, for the VR community that it's gone.
I'm going to say, watch eBay carefully. I'm telling you, $50, you can get yourself an Oculus Go. It is a fantastic headset if you want to lie down in bed and watch a TV episode. It is brilliant at that. And again, you can still use Virtual Desktop to connect back to your PC for actually a really high res. That's how I watched Game of Thrones. I watched Game of Thrones lying down with my Go. It was great.
For entertainment, you still want to buy a Go. A Quest is totally overkill. Sometimes
Yeah.
positional tracking is totally overkill. Watching 360s is amazing in the Go. And
Well, the controllers are annoying. Like if you have your Quest controllers, like let's say you're laying down and they keep moving, and like let's say you're in bed, right? And they keep moving and they keep popping up, and you get the it's like you just want that simple little controller that's not going to be an overreactive little mouse,
on the good side, they do still, support the Go with like business stuff, because for training purposes, it's awesome. But it's almost like they turned a consumer headset now into a business headset. So you're kind of, it's like, why do I still have one then?
Yeah.
I'm kind of sad about that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Sad to see that about the Go for sure. So let's talk about games, because we mentioned about Go emulation, and let's talk about new Quest games, because there was a few new Quest games that were teased at the keynote. One of which completely blew my mind, and that was Stress Level Zero Project 4, which is a spin-off from Boneworks.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? This is happening?
And they dropped it with it was just like the slide went up, and you're like, hang on a second, that says Stress Level Zero. I've never heard of Project 4. Why is not everyone clap? What's going on? No one was clapping at that point, and then they mentioned it, and they brought the release out, and we're getting our Boneworks universe in Quest on a side project.
Yeah. And I'm sure, Oculus saw all the videos of the Boneworks demos going viral, and they were like, yeah, we want a piece of this. So yeah, I think it's great that it's coming to the Quest, because, it's going to, the world looks like Half-Life, right? We've all said that it's the closest thing we're going to get to Half-Life VR until Valve actually do it. So
And again, it highlights the potential of the Oculus Touch. I still think it's a controller that is underused, in so many games. The only game that I've tried so far that is doing it accurately is the one that's coming from one of the Valve Knuckles developers, like Vertigo. Vertigo 2. The way that he implemented the touch controls, that's how it should be. And I'm excited that there's another one who's had a lot of experience with the Valve Knuckles that is now also going to do that as
I
well.
want to see the Boneworks trailer, right? With the Gordon Freeman thing.
Yeah.
And he clasps the three fingers, the one finger, and the one finger. He's like, oh yeah, the finger tracking is so good.
I also need to mention, because I played Boneworks, and the body Brandon and his team created is super nice, where if you crouch or jump, it really goes by itself. It's super natural how he created everything. So if it's in the same universe and the physics are good, it's all about physics.
Do you mean your player character's body? And do you mean from a momentum perspective, when you move your arm, or is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's you really feel like it's your body in the virtual world, and it matches. And yeah, if you jump, if you move, it's just it's very, very detailed in the way. And when you go to their Steam page, it also says it's a physics-based simulator with, of course, a storyline. It's not just a sandbox, and hopefully you will be able to create your own worlds as well in the future. So yeah, I was surprised too, because honestly, Stress Level Zero is very, their work with Valve. So this was a surprise that they jump in, and it's good, because that means that Quest gets all the love for sure content-wise, and that they just look around.
But let's read into this a little bit, right? Project 4, I think is what it was called. So Project 4 is being separately branded to Boneworks. Why? Because, I'm going to guess here, Oculus or Facebook execs approached them with 2 sacks of money and said, hey, your game is great. Can you do that on an Android device? And they're like, yeah, sure. We stressing ourselves out for a period of months to see if we can get this to work on a phone. And I think that their protective membrane is to put it in a side project, because it'll probably be stripped down. I don't think you're going to have the same storyline or whatever. Maybe we'll get a kind of a Robo Recall style experience, which is, again, that's going to be, I think, their benchmark. Robo Recall, we've seen it. It's not the same fidelity as what you get on PC. You get a bit of fun out of it, and I think this will be similar. It'll be kind of like the bite-sized version of the game.
It's all about the physics, basically, and not really about how it looks.
Yeah. But I'm glad it exists. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was a big surprise to me. I never anticipated that one coming. So that was pretty cool. We've also got Five Nights at Freddy's officially coming to Quest, which I think is great, because a lot of people were asking for it. So that's really cool. Fisherman's Tale, again, another solid game that we've played. If you enjoy puzzle games, you can't really get much better than that.
It's a game that plays with scale quite a bit, and with this kind of stepped immersion, which is, it's a great story. It's only a couple of hours long, but I think for a lot of people who were new to VR in the last year, there's a fair number of those that have mentioned it to me that that's my favorite game. It's a very solid puzzle.
Yeah, relatively short but extremely polished, I would say. Then we've got Arizona Sunshine, which we've been waiting for a while on Quest.
Wait a second. Isn't that what you talked about ages ago when you were going to eat your, what was it you were going to eat? Something.
Head strap.
Okay, no more head strap.
You know that, the thing is, I just knew it was going to come.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't make random predictions. I know what I'm talking about. Funny enough, you know what they did? Vertigo Games. You know what they did? They sent me a hey. You know what they did? They sent me a cake with a head strap on there, and they were like something like, you know, we're gonna surprise you. So I was like, okay, that's a hint that I'm actually right.
Yeah.
So in the end, I'm happy. So I don't,
But one thing we should say is, because your other prediction in a video was about Windlands coming to the Quest, and we know that that's not going to happen now. So maybe you will be in a head strap after all.
well, with that cable, you can play Windlands too. So hey, there we go.
So some other games that we should mention are Snowdrift. That was one that we got teased from the trailer that we really don't know anything about. So mysterious looking, but cool. Like
I had like it kind of was like a little bit like a survival element that I got from it. Like, you know, you had like campfires you need to build. You need to go like, you know, with bears chasing you, right? Or, like it was very like survivalist. Like, and I haven't really seen anything like that in VR really yet, except for like maybe like Project Solace that did that a little bit. But like a real survival game, like yeah, I'm up for that though. I love that kind of game.
yeah, a bit like The Forest or something like that out on Quest. I think that would do super well. So interested to know more about Snowdrift. So hopefully we'll try and learn some more about that in the coming weeks. Nothing about The Climb. You know, again, they teased it last year. And it was even in some trailer reels, but no actual mention of it that it's coming to the Quest. So maybe they're teasing more.
Let me drop another bomb. Minecraft.
No Minecraft.
Nothing.
Yeah. Although my prediction around The Climb is that now we've got this finger tracking. Maybe they'll release their game with that technology baked into it. Who knows? Because that's all about using your hands. So that was kind of my guess about that. And then of course the big one that dropped, you know, like Beyonce style. You know, on the keynote was Vader Immortal Episode 2, and it's obviously out now. It came out yesterday, so that was kind of like a really cool moment, you know. But we were like, oh, we're all here. We can't play this game, you know, in our little creator demo area. We don't have access to record it, so like everyone at home's playing it, and we're like, oh, we don't get to play it, and we're here.
It's funny that Tariel, he wanted to record it here, and you know, we have this place where we can use the Rift S to play Stormland, you know, and some other titles, Asgard's Wrath, etc. And also things on the Quest. So we were like, can we just, you know, download it on the Quest and play it and record that? That was impossible, basically. So Tariel went to Best Buy to buy a Quest to take it here and then play it anyways. Pretty much the same thing.
But then the Quest was broken. Yeah.
It was, he had to send it back.
He managed to get a faulty one, which is actually very rare, and yeah, it just didn't work. So he couldn't play it in the end anyway.
I did.
Oh, you did.
I played it last night.
Okay.
So I won't spoil anything, but you guys know. I mean, we were actually at odds, I think, on the last title, because like Mike, you were saying it was either your favorite or second favorite of the year, things like that. You were quite impressed with it as well, Rowdy. I was kind of like, it's all right, it's a Star Wars thing, but yeah, you know, I was like okay with it. This one, I've only played 10 minutes of it, so the introduction bit, and I won't go into detail, but I will say that from IXLM Labs, this is what I expected. This is what I wanted. Lighting, sound, fucking impactful piece of cinematography in VR. Like, this is what I wanted. And I got to use the Force powers, and I'm not gonna say any more. For all of those of you listening at home, you'll know what I mean. But this title, I am very excited to play the rest of it. So I'm definitely very positive about
And
this.
it's also out for the Rift S immediately.
Immediately, yeah.
So can I also mention another title? Space Channel 5 also coming.
That's a cool
I'm
game.
a big fan. I can't wait to dance with Ulala.
Yeah, no, that game's actually really fun, but the premise is totally whacked. If you haven't seen it, you're like, oh, aliens have descended on the planet, and you must do dance moves to be able to fight off the aliens. And like, I played this. I'm sure it was after, Nate, that you had played it at some convention or something. You mentioned it. I'd been skipping it, like I skipped it at VRLA, and then I got to play it when we were in PAX, and I was like, this game is actually good. Now,
I know.
Is it? So it's landing. It must be landing both for Oculus's real estate as well as PlayStation then, because we played it on PlayStation.
It's a very PlayStation kind of
It is,
thing.
super
it's Sega
PlayStation.
who made it.
Yeah.
It's very Japanese, but it's
very Japanese.
it's like Dance Central, but then like with your dance move you shoot aliens.
Sounds awesome. Sounds awesome. So that's pretty much all the Quest stuff, I think, isn't it? Is there anything else?
Can I just like say that lineup-wise, I expected more. As I said, I wanted to really see a roadmap. I wanted to see more for Quest. I'm again a little concerned about what we're getting. They even showed this video with all these games. I was like, is that it?
Yeah.
Is that all? And it's almost Christmas.
Yeah.
It's almost next year actually as well.
I-
So, you know,
Yeah, it's funny actually because Jason Rubin came on stage and he was like, normally this is my favorite part of the show. And then I was like, here we go. Here's all the big games. They're going to do a little clip. Each maybe developer going to talk about it, or they'll individually talk about each game and its merits and why you should be hyped about it. And then it was like, what is it, Mike Verdu, who's taken his new role, and he was like, hey, what's up? Yeah, check out this little highlight reel. And then I was like, okay, job done. See you later. It's like, where is everything?
with Jason Rubin, when he was, you know, like he was picking what we would play next, but also the way he was announcing it, he knew what he was talking about. But with this guy, it didn't feel like I was looking at a gamer. I felt a disconnection between this man, and maybe his team is great, but I don't know, I was like, do you really know what I want or what the audience wants?
He felt a little bit more like a Microsoft exec walking on stage, being like, okay, so you played a game 10 years ago, and to be honest, it's being unfair, right? The guy might be a hardcore gamer, but he doesn't come off that way. And I think in prepping for shows like this, you either have to admit that's not my strength, and maybe I'll bring a team member on with me and we'll do a kind of a song and dance between us. Yeah. Or you know, you just fess up and be like, yeah, I'm not a gamer, but I'm going to show you the way forward.
And the thing is, like, you know, we've said this before so many times. Like, hardware is great, but we need the games, we need the content, and that's what, like, we were all wanted from this show. Like you said, like Nathan said it a couple of times just recently, like, and it's a really good point. We want a roadmap of what's coming in the future, a bit like Nintendo Direct. You know, this is why you bought a Switch. This is why we understand.
Also, State of Play, kind of the same.
State of Play. You know, this is we're honoring your investment into the technology, and we're going to keep giving you these great games. And that is what is missing from Oculus right now. Is that okay? We've got these games lined up. But what's next? What we got to look forward to, like next summer, for example, you know?
Maybe like the reasoning behind that is like that they thought like, you know what, we're bringing out the Oculus Link. They get an access to an entire library of contents. So, you know, the amount of content that we bring in, it's a lot now, but it's not like new kind of content. You know, maybe that is the reasoning behind it.
Just one thing I just want to say. I want to say this because I think we've mentioned this on the show before as well. But you know, Beat Saber, I love this game. Like Beat Saber, I still play it regularly. It is like the darling of VR. But we've got a problem in VR if that is still the number one game after a year after it's being released, and nothing can take it off the top spot. And that's a content problem.
Yeah. It's the same with like someone was asking me like, hey, what is your favorite game? And I was like asking the same thing. Like there are still a few people that I met here that say like, oh, the lab is my
go-to demo. Yeah.
And then like as long as Beat Saber is still the flagship, there's something wrong.
But I get a very uncomfortable feeling at these conventions that it's not a content issue, it's a moderation issue. I feel like the tap is squeezed too tight, and that there is a wall of stuff. I've played a bunch of things on here that have not been greenlit for Quest that are fucking amazing on Quest.
Yeah. And we've heard it from a few developers, like you said, you know, that haven't got the green light to go on the Quest store. And I do hope they find a home on SideQuest and they can monetize it some way and get the return on their investment, because they've already put the work in. The game is already made. It works. So I really wish them the best of luck with that.
I have a question on that. So for SideQuest.
Side question.
A side. He did it, lads. Now the comments. Now the top comment's going to be side question. You know that. All right. So my question is, have any of you come across a paid-for app on SideQuest? I believe it exists.
Yeah, so apparently it does exist now, and I actually met the guy who runs SideQuest. Yeah, he's here with his team, and I said to him, like, you know, surely this is the next evolutionary step for SideQuest is to monetize the platform, and he was like, absolutely 100%. That's always been our ultimate goal, but it's whether it will cause problems for them, which is the issue, you know, and we don't know what the kickback will be, because Oculus have been kind of chill about it so far, I kind of feel like, although we don't know what happens behind the scenes, of course, but it feels like there's been no like pushback against it. But if there's another platform competing that's using their hardware, then maybe that might be a different story. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the coming months. But certainly from our perspective, we support an open VR platform, right?
And it's funny that I also met them, and comparing like the lineup that we saw here at the keynote, they have more in store than Facebook themselves,
Yeah.
because developers can at least publish something that has potential and is maybe not completely ready, because early access doesn't exist on Quest, and on SideQuest it does exist. So they are competing in a way. And as I said before, the moment you can buy apps, they're gonna pay more attention, because money is, that's going to be a little bit of an issue. I want it to exist because OpenVR is awesome.
That's a political landscape that I think is going to get them in a lot of trouble. Honestly, I think
season
SideQuest is going. I think SideQuest is gonna die if they try to monetize it. And the problem is, the developers on the other side of the fence saying, "I put all my hard work in. You're not letting me launch. I'm gonna find another way." And if it's not SideQuest, I think we're getting pushed down into the Napster arena again. Honestly, you're going to jump from SideQuest gets shut down, then the next one comes up. So if you're a smart dev, copy what SideQuest is doing and get ready, because when that ship falls over.
Ideally, it would actually be decoupled from SideQuest. In a way.
Ideally, yeah. There's ways around it.
Like
There
that.
are ways
That
around
like for example, you would have something like a Patreon that like people would be able to donate in order to play the game, or like something like that. That you could like decouple it from SideQuest, so that SideQuest
it's
itself.
Still obvious though.
I know, but then at least like SideQuest is not the one to say like, we don't have any control over that if the developer gives a key or not.
But that's like the mega upload, or these
Well,
mass
I know,
file
but-
share sites.
but
It's
that's what's gonna
exactly how
happen.
they took
Yeah,
down.
but
And then
it's
it'll buy them a year.
logical.
It'll buy them a year. That's it.
It's logical that that's going to happen, because if there's no other way for a developer to get their game out there, then they don't have any other
Which
way
brings
to go.
which brings me back to the center point here, right? I think Oculus have the tap too tight right now, and I think that they need to do something to alleviate that, because we're not talking about unreasonable people. We're talking about hardworking developers who produce good content, and when it's ready to ship, they're going knocking on the door, and they're getting turned away time and time and time again. And gamers are saying, "I want it."
We don't know why, of course.
Well, they're curating the content like they said they will always do, and I understand that, and there is a value to that. They're trying to become a console, and you don't want to be laughed off the market or cause trouble with consumers because of content that's not ready. So you really only have two options. Either you scale up your team, who's doing all the kind of QA on the Oculus side, to say, "I will let you on the store." You have to make that team a lot bigger to deal with the volume, and I think they're not ready to do that yet.
Although one thing we did find out last week is that Somatic Bruce, who's like real OG in the VR scene, I 100% respect that guy, because he was one of the big influences for me to get into like creating content on YouTube. But he's part of that curation team now, and I think he's the perfect person to have on that team. So hopefully, things.
He's the guy who still has all of the Oculus Share kind of games that is right there on his laptop. So I think he's the ideal guy to do something like this.
Yeah, but in the end, I mean, we're talking about Facebook. There's always someone on top that decides, that has no idea what video games really are, has never even touched a VR game before, and that's the one that pushes the green or the red button. It's not Somatic Bruce. It's not all these nice OG people. It's like
It's a step in the right direction.
it just feels like it feels a little bit like they're a bit too corporate about the decisions they make, and then you see that back in the games that come out. It's very reserved in a way. It's not adventurous.
I got to say about Bruce, right? One thing I got to say about Bruce, I'm very glad he got the role he got. I love Bruce. We've done shows in Alt Space together. Like, go back, nothing against him, but I do think that if you're on the Oculus side, putting Bruce into that role, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to, buy in the guy who is very well stitched with the community, who can act as our nice little shield against the developers who are, giving us so much grief.
Yeah.
And I think that Bruce has a lot of weight on his shoulders in that respect. I think to an extent he's going to have to be, he's going to have to respect the decisions of his employer, at this stage as well. He'll have some influence, but it'll be metered and limited. And so, although I would love to say, I expect Bruce to fly in, with the Superman cape and address those problems. That's not what Bruce is going to do. And, I wish him luck, because that's a tough job. He's got a lot of developers looking into him, who know his name. And to be honest, he's going to take pressure off of the other faceless people who are actually saying no.
But it's also worth mentioning that obviously, doing these things, SideQuest, probably percentage of Quest owners that use SideQuest is very, very small in the grander scheme of things. Probably many out there that own a Quest that are very happy with it probably don't even know it exists, because they're not in this bubble that we're in, where we think it's such a big deal, but maybe it's not. But let's move on from Quest then, and maybe talk about Rift, because some Rift games were announced. Obviously, the big one was Respawn. We mentioned that on our prediction show last week. We thought it was going to be a World War II game, or a World War I or World War II game. Yep. Spot on with that, which I was so chuffed about. I was so happy.
I was so happy. My reaction though, like I saw, I mean the intro was amazing where they throw down the like vinyl record and they start shooting to the music. You're like straight away feeling like Inglourious Bastards, that kind of vibe. And I had a really embarrassing moment because I'm like, shit, this looks like Medal of Honor. Like they're stealing the IP. And before they flash the logo and they're like Medal of Honor, I'm like, oh shit, that's their IP.
I don't think it's their IP. It's like EA's IP, right?
Yeah, I don't think Respawn were in charge of the original builds. X number 12 years ago or whatever. They must have bought it up.
owns Medal of Honor.
It's
as far
changed
as I know.
hands, I think, since the original. But I used to play that in LANs and stuff. Like, I love that.
But I think it's great that a big name IP is coming to VR. So I thought that was really cool. And like you say, some of the mechanics that were shown off in the trailer, you know, like catching grenades and throwing them back or shooting a grenade in midair.
No, the grenade with the teeth,
Yeah.
right? The whole audience erupted laughing. It's like, he takes a grenade, tears out the pin with his teeth, and throws it. Now, how that worked, it must just be a proximity thing, but it was amazing.
Frying pan action, everything to kind of beat up like Nazis.
And
The reloading in the
Reloading.
game, like the way that the guns, like you could see, like they packed like some heat there. Like it felt like really like visceral, like in the way that they were holding the guns.
And apparently, from someone who's played it, they have the M1 Garand, which is my favorite rifle from Bad Company 2. You're like, ding, 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 ping! You know, I love that gun.
One thing I didn't like, and that is something that they didn't show in the trailer, but that was something that I saw on the show floor. I didn't get to try it, but I did get to see people play it. It's when they use like the gun, like with like a sniper rifle with like a zoom on there. So they would bring the scope to their face, and everything around the scope will become black.
That's common though. There's a few VR titles that actually use
Yeah,
that,
I
and it
know.
doesn't feel bad to use it.
I
I've-
don't like that.
Is that the Shadows core scope we're talking about?
Yeah, actually, it is.
Similar.
Yeah, it's very similar to that.
I don't like that kind of like it doesn't feel immersive for me at all. Like if I try that kind of stuff, it's just like
I wonder what
I don't
model.
wanna do that.
Because we got Sniper Elite coming as well, right? The VR version of that, Sniper Elite 3. So the scope thing actually makes a lot of difference. Now, I think you and I had the same experience some years ago in Out of Ammo. The first time you were in the bell tower and Out of Ammo, like clocking the thing, like loading the round. I mean, that felt amazing. If they would pick up from that, which was a whole from Rocketworks, like Dean Hall and that.
I was talking
That was
to PSVR Frank about that, and he actually a really cool hypothesis about why they did that. Like he was saying, like, you know, the reason why they black out the surroundings of the scope is probably because they don't want to render the screen 4 times. Because if you render in the scope, you have one kind of view you need to render in. It's a different kind of camera. The camera around that you need to render in. You need to render it in 2 eyes, so it's 4 times you need to render it. But if you want to bring it to less powerful platforms, such as, for example, an Oculus Quest, it might not be ideal to be rendering multiple screens.
Did they announce it for Quest? This is
They
coming?
didn't.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Still, you have the cable.
But I've also heard like people have said that it isn't as visually impressive in playing it, and some people have felt like a little bit like, oh, I was expecting more from
So
a
maybe it has
AAA.
maybe it has been dumbed down a little bit
I think
to make it
that's
easier to be
possible.
ported to a platform like the Oculus Quest.
So we should mention that it's a single player. We should also mention that the last few Medal of Honor games weren't that great. They were struggling a little bit. So this could be the comeback of Medal of Honor. I think the last one was in Afghanistan. It was like a future one. It didn't really land that well. There was never that much hype. I think my favorite one was definitely the first 2. You know, especially the World War II scene. Also Airborne was an awesome one. It's funny that I played Medal of Honor in VR 5 years ago with Farbex. I saw my video, I was like, wait, whoa, did I just, with the DK1?
I saw you with
It's-
your cheeky tweet. It was good.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a single player. I was hoping for a multiplayer because from a single player perspective, it was a lot of like, okay, you shoot some Nazis there, but I hope that, as Rowdy always mentions, the story is good and it's not just about that all the time. You are playing someone from the resistance, so that could mean that you need to sneak in somewhere, place some dynamite under like a Nazi headquarters, or I hope there's some puzzling in there too, and not just, oh, we're just gonna, because okay, frying pans are fun, but are they fun for 6 hours? I don't think so. You want to also do other stuff.
They did mention that it was more like an emotional experience as well, so they really want to tackle that as well, like the psychology of war. You know, I think that's a great concept to like bring to a virtual reality title, and especially if you want to have a good storyline.
I think think the thing is, like, none of us have got to try it yet. I think that's the biggest shame. You know, like we mentioned earlier, you know, the queues were about 3 hours because like each person was getting like a 30-minute demo. So it is one of those things that's unfortunate. We did try, but
We're literally making the sacrifice now to play Medal of Honor to record this podcast. So it's all of your fault.
yeah, that's very true. So, Medal of Honor was, of course, the big one from Respawn, and then we had, Stormland releasing on the 14th of November, and then Asgard's Wrath releasing on the 10th of October.
Finally.
And that's pretty much it for the whole PC.
Yeah.
So again, like not much content.
Although it's worth, obviously, Vader Immortal 2 came out on Rift as well yesterday, and then our favorite game, Pistol Whip, is coming to Rift as well and PC. Lone Echo 2 was here, but again, these games you've seen at E3, we played it at PAX, we played them last year, so for us, Medal of Honor was really the only new title for us to really get excited about. But maybe we should kind of round up the sort of podcast with the show floor, because I felt like the show floor here at Oculus Connect felt very different from previous years. Like this is my third OC, and some of our highlights from last year were like the local multiplayer Quest experience, which was the Dead and Buried Arena. And we were really hoping that we were going to get to try out iLlusion's Space Pirate Arena experience, because for those of you that have seen the sort of little tweet that they posted out of the gameplay, it looks incredible. Like local multiplayer with Quest, fighting and using cover and shooting. It just looks so much fun. So I was really banking that we got to play it here, but unfortunately, sadly, that's not the case. Did get to meet the developer and have a chat with him. He's a super lovely guy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that title. But yeah, it felt like they weren't doing it this year.
It feels like, from my perspective, it feels very corporate, very serious. I don't see that many on the show floor, not many developers being able to showcase their games there. There's a lot of empty space, that could have filled up with all kinds of games. I was really hoping that this year there would be so many games, lines and lines of games. And when I spoke to Anna from Pixel Ripped, she said, we would have loved to be here, but instead they put a plant there with 3 benches around it. Well, they could have had a freaking awesome game there that people could have tried.
And this is the funny thing, the best games that we tried weren't on the show floor.
Exactly.
Pixel Ripped and Pistol Whip both were random demos that we happened on the concourse or in a hotel room.
And the thing is, last year we had so many great experiences. We had The Void was here.
Yeah.
There was none like that here. We had indeed the Dead and Buried Arena demo, wasn't here. We had entire VR esports league that was here. There was events. There's none of that here. No. There's none of that here. They have a large business center. They have a large coffee bar. Yeah, those are the two things that you have. But where's the rest of the after the keynote yesterday? The only thing that was there were the demo booths. That is it.
The enterprise aspect is taking up a third of the floor.
Yeah,
a third of the floor. So you've got now that is an important aspect if you're running a business and you're like, I have 200 Oculus Go's for my training my Walmart staff, and I have to individually tie them to an individual mobile. I can't manage them centrally, and they've actually announced kind of some of that coming. Now, I actually tried some of the enterprise software, and for instance, there was one that was DHL, and I'll tell you, I will never look again at my Amazon delivery person and be like, your job is easy. Maybe I'll take your job. Because what it had you doing was packages coming down this conveyor belt, and you grab the packages, scan them, and load them in the truck efficiently. And it scores you on how well you package. And you have to package fast. And I was like, after doing that once, I did a pretty good score, but after doing that once, I have a lot more respect for delivery folks. And I don't know, I think that was odd, that we had so much of that enterprise/business slice on the floor.
The thing is, I was talking to Lonely Viper yesterday. We met up here as well, and he was saying as well. It feels like the focus of of this Connect is far less on gaming, and much more on what else is there for virtual reality? The business aspect. The kind of things that they're showing here with your hand tracking. It doesn't feel like the focus is really on gaming this year, which is of course something that we're all very passionate about. But maybe other people that are here are not really. So I do get that. It's just a bit strange if you compare it to last year, where they had tennis courts here where you could play with the Oculus Quest. Such a different kind of concept.
Model. Yeah.
It's just weird that there are so many developers here, in hotel rooms, demoing stuff that work actually with Oculus, but don't have a spot here.
Yeah,
well, last
really
year they had these lines of these little booths, Final Assault had a booth, Echo, etc. You had all these indies lined up that you could play, and now it's okay, Medal of Honor and It's like they are hiding right now outside. And you know, the thing is, if they continue doing that, it becomes just like E3, where Oculus Connect will be here, but then you have other things around here. Let's say if I would next year put in some money with some developers, and I'm like, we're gonna have our own little space here, and you can demo everywhere you want,
It's already
and then
happening.
gather everyone.
No,
It's gonna.
It's already happening tonight. Operation Indy, just across the street. They did it last year. It was very successful. All the stuff they couldn't put on the show floor was demoing at the bottom of a hotel just across the road. And to be honest, what do I love the most? I love the indie stuff because I wanna try the things that are new. You want to kind of touch something like, I mean, yeah, I hate to say Beat Saber again, right? But that came out of a game jam, and it's like that's how you grow a sunflower from a seed. You don't grow a
that's what I'm saying.
sunflower
Like,
from a sunflower.
That's of course what we were passionate about, but maybe that is not the thing that they want to focus on with this Connect.
You're right. Their
Like,
strategy
maybe
is
it's not
going.
gaming.
But
Maybe
we've
it is-
seen that in several ways. There's fewer of us here, right? And that's a very intentional strategic shift. And I don't think it's not necessarily right. It's Zuckerberg made his mark in the first year, and he said, right, I want 1 billion, right? I want 1 billion of you fuckers to get into VR, and you don't do that by channeling at gaming. Now that might be unfortunate for us, but at the same time, that focus and what they're delivering, I think is really good. I was very impressed at what they had to show for enterprise management.
Let's be honest about it. Without gaming, Oculus wouldn't exist.
Well, exactly.
You know,
What was the core?
so you've got to cater to your hardcore audience.
The thing is, it would make sense if there were almost no games here, if gaming was mainstream enough where it could just work by itself. But right now, you still need to pump in money to make it happen. So it not being here is actually hurting the developers that are outside here trying to demo their games to us because they can't be here inside.
And you know it's not a gaming event when the Lonely Viper gets kicked out during the keynote for wearing his full Deadpool outfit. So shame on you, Oculus, for kicking him out. Like, do you know who this guy is? You know?
That must have been third-party security contractors.
Actually, I'm gonna go on the record. That was my highlight, Viper. That was definitely my highlight of the show.
So yeah, it is a shame. I think they missed a trick, and certainly with the VR League not being here or the ESL, like because they had such a big presence on previous years, and it is like a huge spectacle when you see these guys, because these guys, like hats off to these competitive players, and I could never do this. They put so many hours in per day training, like in Onward or other competitive games like Echo Arena. Working together as a team and building this bond as a teammate, and then not having the opportunity to show those skills off at a big event like this is a real shame.
So I was speaking to the VR Respawn guys yesterday in a bar, and this is something I said before. Right now there is no esports because it kind of dropped. It kind of had a setback where the esports guys are here, the players, but they don't have their own space to play or show the action of, and it looks like that Oculus isn't and ESL are not really investing money into it anymore, and it's completely gone. For a part, of course, they are still passionate and they will just continue trying because they created like Space Junkies League, Onward League. They create their own thing, so they will find a way. But it's like I said it before, you can't artificially be like, okay, we're Oculus, we make a game that is kind of competitive, and then we want it to be an esport. The community in the end decides what becomes an esport, not the other way around, and this shows that it fails that way. If let's say if Population 1, another game that also was a big miss, that is like one of those games that could become an esport if the community thinks it's good enough. It has the potential to become that.
Yeah, because look what happened to Epic Games. No one really was that interested. They made some amazing titles, of course, but Fortnite has really put them on the map. And if Population 1 being like the Fortnite of VR, that's kind of what they're aiming for with this battle royale cross-platform play. It could really like push the industry forward. So like you say, they've missed an opportunity there. But I just think it's a real shame because even from a technical standpoint, when you watch these guys, they're on these podiums, and then you've got their like first-person views, and you've got big sort of cameras sweeping through like the Onward scene. It makes it look so cool, and it is inspiring to get people like interested and excited in VR. So I think again, a missed opportunity there.
It's for them. I just feel a little sad for them because last year they were like having this big place where you could watch the league and it had this big cup you could win, and it was amazing. They did it in the keynote space where usually people listen to everyone talk. But since this year it's not there, for them it's like bad advertisement because people know from what happened here last year, and they're like, whoa, so what happened? So they all, and it's funny, they all got invited too to come here, but they're just hanging out here on the show floor having fun, and that's all.
And I just want to say one thing, because like obviously the big thing of the keynote was VR is now. It's like, well, show us then is now, because it doesn't feel like it right now. Do you know what I mean? Because we're missing the big presence that we had last year for gaming, you know?
Like I know a couple of people who came here specifically because they liked the VR esports event last year so much, and they're like, where is it this year? They paid money to come here, and there's literally nothing here for VR esports.
I'm really surprised, aside from the esports side, which is like having the Olympiads walking around the floor and there be no Olympics on. That's a bit odd. But aside from that, you know, like why they wouldn't just redo the Dead and Buried demo. It was such a hit last year. Loads of people didn't get a chance to try it. That couldn't have cost them that much in setup. It's literally a floor, a couple other staff, it was demo. They didn't have to do anything different. People might say, oh, it was the same thing as last year. It was totally awesome. Yeah. You know, why wouldn't they just roll that again? So the things I do want to say are, things that I've been impressed with are, aside from the plants and benches, which I have to say there are too many of. Like we would prefer more booths and stuff and shorter lines. Some of the setup is nice. I mean, the front door, again, they've done a good job there. The actual staff who handled us, good job there.
So nice.
The actual presentation, I thought Zuckerberg's presentation was actually very well portrayed.
Oh, yeah, I like
the
the
only
keynote.
person, the keynote was, the first keynote was like really good. I missed the second one. I know you guys attended that this morning, but like the one place where I had a belly laugh was when the woman was introducing Horizon and was like, oh, and you can do this thing in Facebook Home. Oh no, Oculus Home. And it was like, oh, that woman cried herself to sleep tonight. Oh no. You should look at that in the keynote. Like watch the whole keynote. It's worth it for that 6 seconds.
So we didn't really mention Facebook Horizon, but so what I'm wondering, as far as I know, this is like an app, right? It's like VR Chat Rec Room. I was hoping that this was Oculus Rooms, where it would be like, okay, this is like you are just in Facebook Horizon straight away, but it's an app you have to launch. So there's still no like place to really hang out officially
Oasis.
straight off the bat, right? Yeah. So I don't really know what's that. It's actually just announcing your own. Like again, Facebook Spaces, Alt Space, VR Chat.
I'm gonna go like I am excited about that though. I think it's like the potential that it has. It's pretty cool. Like, you know, building your own worlds. It's very popular in Rec Room to do that. And Facebook is a big platform. It's a lot of people that are on Facebook still. So I do think that's like a nice way to push, you know, virtual reality to an audience that may not have seen or heard about it. So I do think that is a really nice kind of concept. It might open up like a lot of new users to it.
And they have some cloud because they mentioned some interactivity with Facebook that allows you to post straight from VR. So I think
for developers as well.
Yeah,
for
so-
developers as well. So they can make points where you can like then share it to Facebook as a user. So that will increase like the social output, the social awareness about your app, about your game. So I do think that is great.
But that fishhook concept of like I can put the line and sinker out there and pull someone else in, that's going to be important. And it's their platform, so they can support it and keep going. Do I think it's going to go toe to toe with Rec Room? Absolutely not. I think Rec Room, should pay attention to this and what they're doing. But to date, what they've managed to do is game mode after game mode give us satisfying content that's easily works across all the different platforms. Very easy to get into. You've already got an established friend base. To shake that tower is not going to be easy.
And plus, like last week, I mentioned the virtual marketplace on VR Chat. They're already a step ahead. They are creating like the civilization in virtual reality, where Facebook Spaces, it's kind of like, yeah, you can create your own stuff, but they are already working on currencies. They have like, you can just like, you know, it's still kind of limited in a way where VR Chat, of course, VR Chat, you can just, you know, download things from the internet, and then like maybe there's not even a license for that, and you can just make, you know, it's all kind of, I don't know, somewhere in the cloud. One more thing that I want to mention that I was also missing here is like the whole arcade business. Like Dead and Buried was here last year with their arena. I was just hoping they were hinting more to like, oh, maybe we have like a Springboard license you can get. And with that, of course, also cloud saves on Quest.
Yeah, where the heck is the cloud saves? Where's the bloody cloud saves? You know what I have? My Quest has every title on Oculus Store on it. Every single title. And if I lose that thing, you know how long it's going to take me to reinstall all of that and all the progress I'll have lost?
But they do have a friend system now, at least. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
There's still no connected social. There's still no connected social in terms of multi-platform connecting world. There isn't that there yet.
And of course, you know, we've mentioned a few things that we liked during the keynote. You know, the keynote was good. Some things that we like coming to Quest and the games, and you know, some of the things we're disappointed about, like with the Rift games library, no future sort of roadmap in terms of stuff to look forward to in the future. But of course, the main reason to be here and the magic of being here at Connect is connecting with people, right? Being together. Together as a team here is super awesome, and meeting developers, from games that we've enjoyed over the last few years, and they have our total respect and gratitude. But also, just connecting with other like-minded VR enthusiasts. It feels like you've got a place here when you come here that you are amongst friends and family, and that's exactly what it feels like, which is amazing. And I think, regardless of what happens in the future with Connect, whether it becomes more business focused like we've seen this year over previous years, we'll still have this amazing place to meet up and have this wonderful experience with other people.
It still is the one place you can go in the world and not have the 40-second introduction about what the feck is VR. that honestly wears on me over as the years go on. And to come here and just every single person you speak with knows what it's about. They're already bought it and excited about it. Because if you wouldn't be here otherwise, you wouldn't have paid the $500 entry ticket if you weren't fucking excited or here for some reason. So
what I like the most is this community, this family. It's like when you're here, it's like no one thinks in problems but in solutions. It's like everyone is creative in some way, and when you go home, you have to deal with all. There's certain people again that you're in, but here it's like, okay, yeah, this is the next step. If there is a problem, let's talk about it together. Let's see how can we solve it. There is nothing is impossible when you're at Oculus Connect with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So unless you guys got anything else you want to add, we'll sort of round up the podcast there, I think. Yeah. So yeah, you got something, Zim? You want to say something?
no, I was just gonna say I think your wrap up there was really good, Mike. So well said.
Cool. So yeah, I hope you guys and girls have enjoyed this one. Apologies for the planes going over. It's one of those things here in San Jose. There's always planes going over and there's trams making noises in the distance. But I hope, despite the noise, you've enjoyed this one anyway. And we'll obviously be back home next week for our usual podcast at our usual time. Thanks again for tuning in and enjoying it. And we'll be back.
Be sure to also like this.
Yeah, and also next week, of course, when we get home, we've got the Cosmos to look forward to try out and get our hands on. So I think next week's show will be more centered around our hands-on impressions of the Cosmos. So if you're interested in that, make sure you stay tuned for that one. If not, have a great week in VR. And until then, we'll have a great week. Take care. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.